I grew up with two older brothers and myself, and then there was two younger brothers and a sister. And my parents were not LDS. It was a very abusive life. We were that family that the police were at their home almost every night. It was pretty bad. And I left home when I was 12. I moved out into the streets of San Diego. I became what is called a street urchin. Luckily, it was during the 60s. There was a lot of other street urchins out there. And it was like, living at the beach or living in avocado trees and Escondido, Because of that and that childhood that I had experienced, I ended up pregnant at 14. And I went into a foster home. I was supposed to put my baby up for adoption, but I just couldn't do it. And that was the first time I knew somebody was going to love me. And so I brought her home from the hospital when she was 3 days home, and I laid her on the bed and I said, "Nobody will do to you what was done to me." So I kept the baby, and we got married, and we had 3 boys. But for all the years we were together, he was always putting me in the hospital, and the police were always coming. But my foster mother, they were LDS, and she was the kindest person. And that was the first time I read the Bible, when I was there. And then when I got home, my first husband, his parents, they were LDS. And his mother sat with me and read the Book of Mormon when I was 14. And I felt the Spirit so deeply. There was no denying it. There was moments I couldn't even talk. I was so excited, trying to read it to my husband. "Have you read this? Have you read this?" But when I had my 4th child on my 20th birthday, and after that time, I got tired of, going to church with black eyes and, just everything. And so I finally got the courage to leave him. But in order to do it, I had to take my kids and run state. And so I got a job in Boulder City. I made $3.75 an hour. I have 4 kids. I was on my own. We were living at the lake, at Lake Mead. And I made enough money to buy gas and food and pay the babysitter for the youngest 2 kids. But I never could get enough money to rent someplace. Well, during this time, my husband and I had started dating, and so he took me and my 4 kids on, and he decided to join the church. A few weeks later, we got a call from our stake president at the time. He said that there was a general authority named Derek Cuthbert that wanted to come and visit with us. And I says, "Well, let me put my cigarettes outside, my beer in the fridge. It'll be okay." So that's what we did. And he came over, and he spent 2 hours with us. And before he left, he said to us, he says, "One day you will be a united family before the Lord." And in my head, I said, "You don't know how hard I've tried. It'll never happen. I can't quit smoking." Out of rebellion, I started smoking, and now I was addicted. It'd been years. And so I doubted. And he looked right at me and he said, one day you will be a united family before the Lord. And by 1995, we had started going to church regularly. And one day I left church, and it was right on the highway out my kitchen window was the store. And I went to my kitchen window and I looked at it and I said, what are you going to do? Are you going to do what you know you should do, or are you going to go buy a pack of cigarettes? So I went and got on my bed and I cried and I told my Father in heaven, I have given up all those other things. I have made life changes. I cannot quit smoking. Cannot. And that was the last time I ever smoked. Every time I would be around somebody that smoked, I would think, oh, I'll just take a hit. And something would distract me. It's like, oh no, oh, okay. And then I wouldn't. And it did that until I couldn't even stand the smell of it anymore. So then I joined the church. And 6 months after I joined the church, I got called in the Relief Society presidency. And I served in 2 different positions for 15 years in Newcastle. And they helped me grow up. Those farming, down-to-earth people raised me into a good life. Same with my husband. They showed us a completely different life than what we knew was even possible. Just don't quit reaching and don't quit getting on your knees, because God does see you. There's a lot of us that have been through this. This is not a new thing. But there's so many of us that are empowered now. And we have the support of the Lord. And we will help. We can help. We're willing to help. But don't just stay in it because you're a daughter of God. And that's not His plan for you. Those experiences might make you great one day. But God doesn't expect you to stay in those things to be great one day. That's not a prerequisite, you know. With addiction, it is the same thing. Just don't give up. The key thing is not to give up. You know, long periods of time are going to come and go. And there's going to be weak moments, and there's going to be great moments. But just don't give up, because God still sees us. I am in my 60s. From that 3-year-old little girl, or that 5-year-old that was thrown down a flight of stairs, or all those things. And I often have felt, man, do you see this? Do you see this? What now? What now? And I know He sees me. And I'm grateful. I just read the scriptures, read good books. There's a reason why the Lord says read good books. It's not just so you can learn what everybody else is learning. It's because the Lord shows His love through His words. And that's all I have to say.